on down the track, it's time to talk nitro. I'm with Jared McLean, my co-host, and we've got Darren Morgan and Maurice Allen with us as well. It's all about 400 Thunder Top Fuel, and we'll be talking bikes as well. But first, a little bit of sad note. Unfortunately, we have to report the passing of Stan Sainty, a real icon in the world of Australian top fuel. Of course, Stan and the Sainty Speedworks team spent decades flying their flag, the Australian flag, with their home-built car and their absolutely unique home-built billet 3-valve engine, running 4-second passes, a real crowd favourite all the time, and Stan's just going to be missed so much it's not funny. He succumbed recently to cancer, and that's going to put in a real emotional spin on the whole top fuel category at the event this weekend. But, I mean, we've got big fields, we've got some incredible racing coming up, and J-Mac, I mean, top fuel, there's so much to talk about.
It's incredible. We've got not one, but now 3 lady drivers out here which are ready to set the world on fire, as it were. And we've got so much to look forward to in this weekend's event coming up. We've got to say a big warm welcome to Darren Morgan, 4-time Australian Top Fuel champion. And I've got to say the AEG Dragster looks good with a complimentary sponsor. Ramset have come on board. How are you feeling in the lead up to this event?
Yeah, awesome. The sun's out again. Sad as you say, Stan's missing from us, so but we'll rock it on and get some flames out there.
Absolutely. And Maurice Allen, you've joined us too, Managing Director of the IHRA and also the owner of the dubious record, the slowest bike pass in the history of 2 wheels. How does it feel to hold both of those titles, both quick and slow at the same time?
Thanks, Jared. It's great to be here. It's it's something that I guess as a drag racer, it's probably not the way you want to be remembered, but I guess that's the way history will play out. So, look, it's up there on YouTube, I think, with about 9 million hits so far, and if I remember correctly, I think I even outran you.
Yes, you did, and you were pushing a good 200 kilos worth of bike too. Rob, there's so much to look forward to. Let's talk nitro.
I mean, top fuel, before we look forward, let's have a look back, the end of the last season. Top fuel was just hitting its straps like you wouldn't believe. The Nitro Champs here at Sydney Dragway, unbelievable event. Then we went north to Willowbank Raceway for the Gulf Western Oils Winter Nationals. The record books got smashed. Damien Harris in one of the Rapisada cars, 4.443 seconds, 530 kilometres an hour. Unbelievable. Wayne Newby, he wanted the record. The sister car came out and ran 4.48. And there you had Larry Dixon in the third of the Rapisada cars, lined up, engine running, everything set to have a crack, almost pulling into stage, and the rain started drizzling down. Man, Darren, that was just such a dramatic way to finish that event.
Yeah, it was a bit sad for the end of the season to finish like that, but as you said, the class has rocked all season, put on a real good show for the crowd. We come here and it's got an oversubscribed field, which is really, really good. So somebody's going to miss out on racing, which is a little sad this weekend. Hopefully not us.
I think Top Fuel last season was probably, one of the best we've ever seen and one of the most competitive. I mean, your own car, the AEG Top Fueler, you're getting down there into the mid 4s. You stepped up, running personal bests. Those goalposts keep moving with the 4.4s, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. The cars will go faster and faster. And this year, now it's 1,000 feet. We have to run in the 3s. So it'll be way fast. Benny's been in the US as well as Rapisadas, and all the other guys are getting information from over there. So hopefully we can all run 3s nearly straight away and make it bigger and better this year.
Well, Peter Zibris at the Winters, I mean, he was into the 450s.
They're running real good.
The Premier car.
Yep.
I mean, and a new chassis here this weekend.
Yeah. They hurt their car last year and they've got a brand new one. They're really excited about running. Lamantinas with the ex-Lucas car from the US. They're really excited about running. So the field's really, really good. So we should see some good numbers, some fast cars, and hopefully going over the finish line every time.
And of course, we also saw Sainty's into the 4-second zone quite solidly.
Yep.
We've got 9 cars here this weekend. Nobody wants to be the non-qualifier. But I'd have to say that if it was to be Terry Sainty, there'll be a lot of sad people around the place, won't there?
Oh, absolutely. It's very sad. And you mentioned earlier before we started about Mariani's. We've got to think about Mario out there too. That's a little bit injured at the moment, but apparently he's coming good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've got 9 cars. The potential's there for more. Jared mentioned it before. 3 females entered in Top Fuel. You know, we've got the Queen of Speed, Rochelle Splatt. Kelly Betts, what is she, the Princess of Pace, I guess? And then Ashley Sanford from the USA, a Top Fuel rookie, but she's done some great stuff in the US. That's got to be good for the sport, that a third of the field are female.
Yeah, and it changed. In 12 months, what a change. But it's incredible, and really it's got to be good for the fans and the spectators on the hill. And racing those ladies, it's awesome. They're a lot lighter than me, god damn it. But anyway, we'll see what this thing can do.
And talking bikes, Maurice, the season finished pretty well for the Top Fuel bikes as well. In particular, the show at the Gulf West Norths Winter Nationals. I mean, Chris Matheson, 6 ones. And what about Damien Muscat? Going into retirement, but what a way to do it on the Harley.
Yeah, he certainly left his best till last, that's for sure, Rob. And it was great to see Chris with his newly developed engine that's been built here locally in Australia. It's a fantastic new piece of gear that they've engineered and built and finished off in Australia, which is fantastic. And that motorcycle produces well over 1,500 horsepower now. And you know, he was in testing here the last couple of days, and it's certainly showing early signs of some great promise and some really big numbers to come for this event.
So do you think these bikes are going to get faster?
Look, there's no doubt that with the technology that's becoming available around the world, we're seeing performances right through all our professional categories. You've only got to look at classes like our alcohol and slammer classes where, you know, the goalposts are just being moved just about every pass now. And there's no doubt that a lot of this is all similar technology that gets used throughout quite a few of the classes. And I think you're only going to find that, you know, this weekend will be the start of what will be the goalposts every run being moved and national records being broken, you know, every qualifying session or a elimination round effectively.
Well, if you haven't seen some of the passes we're talking about, check this out.
For the event, but they've got some work to do. Oh, she's burning up, but he's driving it through. 448! Oh, man, oh, man!
455 in the lane beside it as well.
Oh, 448, 455. Luke Newell confirmed to me, but I think that's now.
Maurice, 400 Thunder announced on the 29th of September that Nitro will be racing over the 1,000 foot. Now, this brings us into line with our American brethren over there. Talk to us about the reasonings behind it and what this could do for the category.
Jared, it was a decision that wasn't made lightly. It's something that has been looked at and talked at for a little while. Amongst the ranks of all the drivers and the teams, it's come to light in recently due to a particular team that felt that, you know, the tracks weren't up to scratch and felt that something was needed to be done to obviously slow down the cars or to bring the racetrack back, if you like, or shorten the distance. Obviously, with the Americans making the move about 8 years ago over in the NHRA, our parent sanctioning body in America is also getting ready to reintroduce their pro package, and as a result of that, you know, looking to obviously bring in the 1,000 foot as their new racing distance as well for Top Fuel. So, look, it's something that there's some issues around tyre technology, which Darren obviously would be able to explain in depth a little bit more, but effectively there is concerns that the tyres have obviously reached their limit in terms of performance. There was some suggestions around safety. We've introduced the new electromotion shutdown emergency system. And for those that don't know, that is a device that's mounted in 3 different ways to the vehicles. So you have chute deployment, fuel shut off and ignition shut off at the finish line. And this is obviously just to help the drivers and aid should obviously, they not be in a position to be able to, make those necessary calls. So we're always looking at ways to improve safety. We're always looking at ways to make sure that the sport is moving forward at the same time. But 1,000 foot is something that has landed on our doorstep, and like it or loathe it, unfortunately, it's a rule that had to be introduced.
Now, Darren, we'll make no bones about it. Santo Rapsata himself announced the fact that he was wanting to push towards 1,000-foot racing on a safety standpoint. What are your thoughts on that and how that could affect the AEG Ramset Top Fuel Dragster?
It won't affect the car that much. We wanted to run quarter, obviously, as did most of the other Top Fuel teams, so we voted against that. And the tune-up and stuff, we're just going to lean on the cars a lot harder now to make them go fast over the 1,000 foot. So to physically for the vehicle and stuff, we'll go through a lot more parts, I suppose, to lift the performance to the same as the Americans. We're running a lot slower than what they were. You know, we'll probably, over the quarter mile, we're running equivalent mile now to what they do over 1,000 feet. So the times will be a lot slower here in this country, I'd say, but we'll step it up and match what they do in the future.
So effectively what you're saying is this is going to set the ball back a pace in terms of comparison.
Just in comparison it will, absolutely.
Maurice, we talk about nitro, we talk about 1,000-foot racing. There's another category that races nitro, and that's the bikes. What's happening with them?
Yeah, look, Jared, the motorcycles are going through a stage of evolution, if you like. There's been some new engine configurations that guys have been looking at. You're now looking at V-twins that are supercharged or turbocharged, and they're starting to obviously make a bit of a comeback into the class. You've got guys like Jay Upton who have been absent and missing. Jay's getting ready we started testing, I believe, at Perth, but he's getting ready to come and attack the 400 Thunder Series. Mark Drew's getting ready to come across with the latest, actually, European stalwart in Jaska Salakari, who's just run pretty much the world's fastest V-twin pass. Although it's a European motorcycle base, the KTM, his motorcycle recently came out and went 6:01, which was really promising with some early signs. So there's a 5-second motorcycle, and Jaska's going to come out and fit his injection system to Mark Drew's motorcycle. You've got Adam Layton, who was testing yesterday. Chris Matheson, as we said, he's really on the pace, ready to go this season. And there's about 3 or 4 new bikes that are landing into the country as we speak. There's a new Pro Mod style motorcycle out yesterday testing. And, so it's encouraging for the class. It's been lacking some numbers, but it is a class now that requires, obviously, a big investment. It requires a lot of infrastructure as well to run a Top Fuel motorcycle. So you're talking, 8 crew. It's a big motorcycle. They weigh well over 1,000 pounds. So, you need obviously the equipment and the setup and the pit area to do that. So it's a big investment now, but we are starting to see the resurgence of that class, which is encouraging.
Moving back to the shift to 1,000-foot racing, with the electromotion shut-off stuff, we're talking about it is an essential safety item now. It's been brought in. Whereabouts on the track does that electromotion shut-off actually kick in? Because shortening it back to 1,000 feet, are we going to see effectively a longer braking zone for these drivers, or do you think instincts are going to kick in and they're still going to be trying to push these cars out the back door for the full quarter?
No, that's a very simple answer to that, Jared. So the electromotion shutdown system runs 2 different styles of transmitters. So there is a set of boxes, if you like, that are positioned approximately 200 feet past the 1,000-foot finish line, and then we have another set that are on a different frequency that'll actually sit 200 feet down from the 1320 zone. So 2 different styles of boxes, 2 different frequencies. What we've been able to do is bring in pretty much the latest technology that are also dual frequency, so that there's no mistake in between the Top Fuel and then obviously the rest of our pro classes. So effectively there's two lots of detection zones, if you like. So it's probably the easiest way to explain it.
Now, Rob and Darren, I'm sure you guys would agree, and feel free to weigh in, but costs. Let's talk costs not only to the track but also to racers to run these sort of safety systems. Rob, what's your feelings on this?
At the Winter Nationals, watching those cars run 530 kilometres an hour over the end of the quarter mile was absolutely magic. There's no question about that. The reality is between the 1,000 foot and the quarter mile, the 400 metres, between 300 metres and 400 metres, the cars are putting on 40, 50 kilometres an hour. So in theory, they should still be running those high 400s at the moment. The quickest 1,000 foot we've seen was a 3.78 by here in Australia by Damien Harris at the Winter Nationals. I take Darren's point. It's going to add some cost. There's no question there, and it's going to add cost to the racetracks.
Maurice?
Yeah, look, the cost these days is quite insignificant, particularly to the team to put this technology on. Most of the cars that have recently been built in the US, whether it's a fuel car or a slammer or an alcohol funny car or a pro stock car, they're all being built with this technology already in the vehicles. It's something that's been around a long time in the US. It's just something that's never been introduced here in Australia. The average cost to a race team here can be between $1,000 and $2,000 for a unit fitted to a vehicle. But that's for vehicles that are obviously, haven't had it before, but like anything new that's coming in from the US, we're seeing carbon brakes all around, we're seeing electromotion devices. So a lot of this technology is already incorporated into new vehicles that we're seeing hit the shores. So,
yeah, I think the electromotion side of it, that's a natural. It's good bang for buck for dollars. It's going to shut the cars off, right on time. You're not going to see any cars that are still under power halfway down the braking area and charging off into the sand traps that we've seen in the past. The switch to 1,000 foot though, that, I'm open about it. I think the show's going to be just as good for the fans as far as I'm concerned. But as I say, it has some costs. Darren's talked about the cost of the races. For the racetracks as well, for Willowbank Raceway, for example, to put the 1,000 foot timers in, the timers are there, but there's no speed trap at 1,000 foot, and there's no hole in the wall to put light beams in. The concrete wall's that fat. Just from that point of view, updated the timing system. CompuLink has quoted Willowbank $250,000 to do a full upgrade of the timing system. That's a huge expense. It's going to have to come sooner or later anyway. But it's just, I guess, the timing. I think the Top Fuel Association were looking at the fact that 1,000 foot was probably going to come sooner or later, but I don't think you wanted it yet, did you?
No, we weren't. And as you said, the Double A system, that stuff's relatively cheap. It's the performance levels to step the car up. That's the cost. We already we ran 450 something or other here in Sydney last season. I had my foot on it for an extra 150 feet. So the car went fast. And after that, Benny actually made our car so it shuts off on the finish line anyway. So our car will be shut off before we ever find the device for that reason, to make sure things are safe. And it shuts off without hurting the engine. That's the other part of the system, is you've got to make sure that everything's right so you don't damage any components when it does shut off.
But as a driver, it must be comforting knowing you've got, I know we're talking 10,000 horsepower nitro burning insanity, but it must be comforting knowing that you've got that extra safety net as such, backing you up just in case something does happen.
I wouldn't like to think that we're relying on that. No. But it's not going to hurt nothing, and maybe that stuff's fine.
Darren, you've been at the forefront of safety as well. I've seen Ben holding a box on the start line. The first thing I went up to him and said, is that to turn your driver off? And he said, yeah, if need be. So, literally your crew chief, if he sees something outside the car that you don't in the driver's seat, he can shut you down.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Our car will shut off before it ever finds that device. But mandatory across the board, it's a good idea. We've had the POM in the net up the back because the throttle stayed open, things like that. As you said, it's 10,000 horsepower. If it keeps the fire lit, it's going to end up in trouble.
Well, let's hope that no one ends up in trouble this weekend. Let's talk about, obviously, the big draw card here, our fuel lineup. It's absolutely huge. Kelly Betts, she's going to be joining us on our next show, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Give us the rundown, Maurice. How good is it to have Betts among the top fuel ranks?
look, it's great. Kelly's a second-generation drag racer. There are quite a few this weekend that are competing, but Kelly certainly comes from a great lineage. The Betts family are well known in the sport. So to see Kelly step up and drive for the Lamatinas is fantastic, and she's taken to it really, really well. And we wish her all the best, and she's certainly going to be hitting her straps this weekend.
Let's keep it rapid fire. 3 Rapisada cars, Darren. How much of a fixture in your mind are they going to be?
Not at all. We just got to make sure we can get from A to B as quick as possible. We don't look at the other cars too much. There was only one of them that beat us last season in points when it rained out. But you've got to do the best you can do. Like the Lamantina boys, they're passionate with Kelly driving the car. The Zib stepped up. Like all those cars are threats. So you can't look at an individual team. You just got to do the best you can do and make the parts last as long as you can and run fast and put on a show.
Phil Reid, he's back after 3 years off. Rob, this must be pretty interesting for yourself.
I mean, it's going to be fantastic to see the Reid family back in Top Fuel. Obviously, Bruce has been involved with crewing a number of cars and working with the collitters in the States. But to see Phil back in the seat, multi-time Australian champion, and Darren, I can't think of a time we've had a Top Fuel field with more depth. I mean, the quality of it right across from 1 to 9 after qualifying, it's going to be incredible.
It is awesome, and there's other cars out there that could come in. Isn't that good? Like, there's more stock out in the country that's not running this weekend. So the class is actually really, really good and strong. And the show we put on last season, if we can keep doing that and get it out to the public, we'll turn the sport around.
Unfortunately, we've got to move to something a little bit sad. Mariani's, they're not here this weekend. Mario Mariani, owner of the Camp Quality LaFan Mariani Top Fuel team, has had an incident that left him with some severe burns. So our thoughts are with Mario, Pam and Mark and all of the family as they go through this recovery process. It's not good to see effectively one of your own away from a race, is it, Darren?
It's hard, and Stan, you know, we've got all this stuff going on. It is a bit tough.
Of course, talking about Stan Sainty, we were talking earlier, if Terry Sainty doesn't make it into the field, it's going to be a particularly sad moment.
I think they'll get there, to be honest. You know, you wouldn't want to be centre bet trying to field a set of odds on this deal. But it's a new car. New cars can give you grief, but they can also give you a new breath of life. And I mean, that thing's been making enough power to run consistent fours, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a fuel car, mate. It can give you grief when you've been running for a year.
And who do you think's got the chops to go all the way to the top step?
Any car out there, they've all got the ammunition and a trailer, and it's all about being equipped and having the ammunition to keep throwing at it. And there's not a trailer out there that doesn't deserve to be there. So it'll be a good show. Like if you're watching this show and you want to watch a bit of drag racing, I'd get your ass out of you.
Jared, I think it's the strongest Top Fuel field that we've seen in the history of the sport. I mean, I go back 30 years and we've had great rivalries between Cowan and Reid. You know, we've had Rapasadas have really come into their own in the last few years. Darren's run 4 championships. But in all of those times, there were 3 or 4 cars. I think there's 7 cars that have an excellent chance of winning this weekend. And there's 2 others that I wouldn't be surprised if they did. You know, anyone can win. We always say that, it's a cliche, but this weekend, it's wide open.
But I think what's more exciting too, Rob, is the fact that the spectators will be they're that much closer to the finish line now that the Sydney Grandstand isn't that far away from the finish line. So they're going to be in for a heck of a treat because they're actually quite closer to the finish line now, which is going to give them a real sense of the speed that these cars obviously accelerate to, which is nothing short of mind-blowing. And
they'll also see how close some of these races are. The winning margins, it doesn't matter whether we're talking junior dragster or Top Fuel. You can win or lose a race by a 10,000th of a second. I've seen you run personal bests, I think 3 times in the one event, and just everyone else stepped up to personal bests and they lost 3 times. I mean, it's incredible, and that's what it's about. The show that you're talking about, Maurice, the fans here at Sydney Dragway this weekend are going to have a mind-blowing show, and OVO Play is going to take it right around the world live. And then 400 Thunder's got it on 7 Mate later as well. So, I mean, for the fans, at the track, away from the track, you couldn't get better than what we've got this season. Yeah.
Well, we'd like to say thank you, of course, to Darren and Maurice Allen. You guys have been fantastic on the show. Now, Rob, we're going to be at the track this weekend.
We'll be getting background interviews, behind the scenes. We'll be bringing that to you. And, of course, we're back day after to do the recap. And as I say, we'll find out how good we were at playing Nostradamus.